Hang in there, buddy! Stay down! We'll keep him busy!
Knocked! Over here! Quickly! Before he strikes again!
Here it comes! I got your back!
Here you go. Let's go!
The decreed hour is come. Set forth with my blessing, Prince Noctis.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Take your leave, and go in the grace of the gods.
Right.
Well, princes will be princes.
So much for royal protocol.
Not like you had to deliver a formal address.
Your Highness!
What now?
I fear I have left too much unsaid. You place a great burden on those who would bear with you.
You're one to talk.
I ask not that you guide my wayward son, merely that you remain at his side.
Indeed, Your Grace.
We'll see the prince to Alticia if it's the last thing we see.
Yeah, what he said.
Hate to break this up, but Kor's got the motor running. Drados, he's in your hands.
And another thing. Do mind your manners around your charming bride-to-be.
Your Majesty as well. Try to mind yours around our esteemed guests from Niflheim.
You have no cause for concern.
Nor do you.
Take heed. Once you set forth, you cannot turn back.
You think I would?
I need only know that you are ready to leave home behind.
Don't know about you, but I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Take care on the long road. Wheresoever you should go, the line of Lucis goes with you. Walk tall, my son.
I think we can forget about hitching our way there. Thought people were friendly outside the city.
You can only go so far on the kindness of strangers.
You're just gonna have to push her all the way.
I've already pushed myself to the brink of death.
Get up. Come on, car isn't gonna move itself.
Sheesh. I thought the car was supposed to move us.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Can it? Ready, steady. Push!
And welcome to Final Fantasy 15. A very interesting and different Final Fantasy to any game we've had in the series prior, and was built to be a new introduction to fans new and old into the series. There's a lot of things I very much enjoy about this game that I will show as we go through it, but there are also a lot of things I have issues with this game. I was going to stay silent for this bit, but unfortunately, as the main song that usually plays in this bit is a real song sung by Florence and the Machine, it's copyrighted. And any copyrighted music, Square Enix have already gone out of their way to mute if you're recording, so you can only hear Stand By Me by Florence and the Machine if you're playing it yourself or you're recording on anything other than the PlayStation's built-in recording software.
And it's my turn, Noct.
As you can see as I swiveled the camera around, there is an open world to behold this time around. The first time the series has tackled this idea since 12, and even then, Final Fantasy 12 didn't handle it anywhere near the scale that 15 is trying to. 12 in a lot of ways was still relatively linear in its progression and setup, that you couldn't go to certain areas until the plot demanded it, etc, etc. Whilst this, you'll see after this section, it's a very open-ended adventure. Yes, there is a plot, and I'll be sticking to it, but there is a lot here. To keep it going, I will be going at a steady pace. I'll be doing the plot most of the time, but if there are side quests, I will be doing them. However, I won't be doing all of them yet. I'll be doing some of them, as we now get our title card for Final Fantasy 15. The reason why I specify that I won't be doing all of them as we go along is simply because of the end game, and it's the first thing I'll criticise right off the bat. The end game you can easily over level for without it even trying if you treat the open world like you treat any other open world, as in exploring every inch. I'll be exploring most of it and working my way through it, but I'll be keeping an eye on my level and be going through it at a relatively brisk pace. But because of that, that also means that once we beat the final boss, this Let's Play's far from over. There will be a lot of extra parts post the final boss when we get to it, but I'll shut up for this as we're introduced to a new character.
Hey there, y'all kept a girl waiting. Now, which one's the prince? Aha! Hello, your highness. Congrats on your wedding.
Not hitched just yet.
Lady Lunafreya's groom-to-be, here in Hammerhead.
Apologies for taking so long.
You best save your apologies for Pawpaw.
Well, that makes you.
Cindy, Sid's grease monkey granddaughter.
Roll her in while I'm still young. Didn't your daddy tell you? She's a custom classic, not some beat-up old clunker. Prince Noctis.
Yeah.
Prince. Like they took your old man and kicked the dignity out of him.
What?
You got a long way to go, son. And that slackjaw's getting you nowhere fast. She's gonna take a while. Y'all get her in and run along.
Y'all heard him. Let's get moving. Right this way.
Now we play the waiting game.
Never liked that game. Never any good at it either.
And on that note, we're already bummed because we don't have our vehicle to get to Golden Key, where we need to go to hop on the boat to begin with in an instant. So unless we want to tread through the desert down there, we need to find something to do.
Y'all ain't
So
never
let's
been
talk
out
to
this way
Cindy,
before, have ya? Go on, have a look around.
who
This'll
will
make
be
sure y'all
generous
don't get
enough
lost.
to give us a world map so we can now see the entire surroundings of the open world, which is very neat. And it says visit the local tipster to gather information. We'll head there next.
The extra time.
Let's quickly run over there. This is the map, and this is what I mean. Unfortunately, we can only explore the lead area, which is this chunk on the map. As we progress through the game, the rest of the open world will soon become available to us, but for this little tutorial-esque area, they leave us at this bit. I won't go into there just yet, I'll come back for that, but I want to go here and get information from the tipster first.
After his son's accident, I never imagined the old man would keep the place running.
Anyway, if you talk to him here,
Welcome.
there will always be an option to talk, eat, or see hunts. If you talk to him, he'll tell you key information, like there's havens here. Havens are where you go to camp, parking spots for the car when we get it. Areas, so there's an area down south from where we are that we could visit as well that has stuff. And loot and resources. The resources being the feather shapes and the loot being the chest shapes. Unfortunately, we're flat broke, so we can't buy any food. But that's where the hunts come in. You can earn some easy money and some good materials through doing the hunts. I'll accept one now, but I won't do it straight away because the plot's going to move on around the time we leave. But I'll start this up and we'll definitely do this probably next part, if not right at the end of this one. Yeah, you're going to get a feel for this. It's going to be a bit all over the place. I've got a general plan of how I'll structure it, but don't be surprised if this ends up going a little bit all over the place. I'll try and like keep it consistent, but as Ignis will here will bring up to us, we are flat broke, so we need to fix our being broke problem. So if we go head over, if we bring up the map as it will show us, the red exclamation mark is a main game plot quest. If it's blue, it's a side quest, and if it's yellow, it's a hunt. So if we follow our red, and it'll take us all the way back to Cindy, who then we can ask to try and find a solution to our pauper status right now.
She ain't gonna be ready for a while. Y'all need something?
In the early game, you always have the option to ask your friends if you don't know what's the best decision, but the best decision is asking for a loan, because asking for a discount's a bit cheeky. well, both of them are a bit cheeky, but the loan is the lesser of two evils.
Now I get it.
And Cindy will pretty much call you out on it and saying that
he was gonna teach them boys a lesson.
Yeah.
He ought to have y'all take care of some ornery
So we're going to be set on a quest to essentially earn some small earnings to get through it. So we need to go deal with some of the pests around Hammerhead.
All according to Sid's plan. I say we
And
play along.
Ignis brings up the fair point of why not use this as our chance to prove our worth. And we get given some AP as well, or ability points. There is an ascension tree you can find in the main menu at any point. You go to it, click on it, and it'll come up with this menu where you can check out everything you can get. Right now there's Air Step, which is pretty neat. Reducing magic cost, Chained Fury, Blink. Blink's pretty handy, we'll get that later. Boost Link Strike damage, I'll show them off soon. Extra abilities to give your teammates, as it will also show them off later. Boosting your stats directly, we won't bother with this straight away because we don't need to early game. Exploration, most of this is finding other ways of earning AP quicker, so this might be handy if you're feeling you're a bit too low or you want to grind for something higher. Wait mode we will not be bothering with at all in this game, but simply put it freezes time in place. There's also Hang In here, so Fortitude, and Rapid Regen, that could be very handy if you find some cover. Ability to add Tech Bar when Noctis lands an attack. Unfortunately it's 48 AP, so we're not going to have enough for that for a little bit. And then we've nearly gone full circle, because there's the Star Shell ability. The Star Shell ability I might get, because that's quite handy for debuffs. And we've gone full circle, so I think I'll get something just to show it off. Oh yeah, I'll get Link Up. Because we get quite a few Link Strikes, and I'll show it as we go into combat what it does and how it all works. I haven't brought up how combat works yet because we haven't started combat, there's no point. We get given 1,000 gil to sort of survive. You can go to the caravan nearby and camp and stay there, but the first time we rest, I think I'll rest at an actual camp to show off what it's like. We can also re-equip gear, so let's have a look at what Noctis has. His default weapon is the Engine Blade. He also has a javelin and a two-handed sword with him. The Spell Daggers, the Lionheart, and the Genji Blade we will not be using until much later on, because you're not supposed to have them until later on. But there are these episodes that came out post-launch that are universal once you beat them, so the things we got for them are universal as well. So no matter what, unless I was going to completely erase the saves for them and completely reset the everything, I just decided I just wouldn't be using them. We also have all these things that came post-launch from various things. Feel free to pause the video and look through them. The ones of interest are the Experience Band if you want to do a level 1 run, the Stamina Badge if you don't want to run out of stamina, and the Ring of Resistance because magic can interfere and minorly harm your allies, but we're supposed to only start with the Bronze Bangle, so that's what I'll be equipping. So the Engine Blade is sort of... Every Final Fantasy game gives the protagonist a weapon that's very distinct and unique to them, something that stands out as almost like something to think when you think of the game. And in Noctis' case it is the fact that they strapped an engine to a sword. But it's got some other uses in that, and we'll show it off as we now head off towards these enemies. The red line at the top, as it starts reaching across the screen, is that they're more aware of you. When it reaches the edge, it will break and you'll initiate combat. Holding circle, or you can mash it, the choice is yours, when initiate your blitz attack, which is just your standard attacks of combat. At any point you can swap the weapons you have equipped to the D-pad, as I showed there.
Done in a minute.
Time to spare.
Gladio picked up a fossil shell. That's worth noting. Gladiolus will be able to pick up random things from enemy, like loot drops and things like that, that you might not be able to get yourself. So it's very handy to always have to always focus with Gladio, and you might get something neat later on for it if you keep it up. You never know what will come your way. As you can see above Noctis, as I sprint, there is a stamina bar. If you can wait until it's right near the end and then push the sprint stick in again, you'll get a full recharge of it as well. Alternatively, you can hold down the circle button to sprint, and if you release it and then quickly press it again just as it empties, it'll refill it as well. But I've always found that pushing in the left stick to be an easier way of doing it. Here it will teach us that holding the square button will allow you to phase through attacks and dodge them. However, some attacks are heavier and you can block them instead and get a free parry, as it highlights on the screen when it's a heavy attack is coming. But we've got our dodges, so it's showing off what we need to. Can we get another one? Oh no, it's too far away. What's worth noting with the greatsword is, yes, it does hit a lot harder, but you cannot phase whilst you're mid-swing with it. It takes priority on animations, and you can't cancel out of it. Certain weapons you can cancel it out, like such as the short sword and the daggers. And I believe the javelin, but I'm not entirely sure offhand. As we head over to our third thing, and as you've probably noticed, they're treating this quest as a bit of a tutorial.
Nowhere until the repairs are done. Then we head for Golden Key.
Then after that, we hop a boat, and before you know it...
And that there gives the premise of what we need to do. Once we repair the car, we'll be heading far south of the lead area to an area called Golden Key. And there's a boat that should be waiting for us, known as the Royal Vessel, that will take us to Altissia. Now it's time for our final one. If you press triangle when locked on, you will warp strike towards them, as the game will want us to do again here. The further away you are the enemy, the more damage it will do. If you're at point blank, it won't do much, you'll be a bit disappointed with it. Doing certain counters can sometimes earn you a link strike, as you saw there. Link strikes are pretty handy, so get fair use out of them. So as you can see with the sword, I couldn't really do anything when I was using the two-handed sword other than swing, so you have to be careful with how you use it. But the javelin is a lot quicker. It doesn't do as much damage, but it hits far more often. When we start getting more javelins, I'll be equipping them to my teammates, because your teammates are much more limited in their choices. Like, they'll have a set phys and primary and a set secondary, but I'll go on about that more in a second. Cindy has something to tell us.
Hey, it's Cindy. How goes the hunting?
Actually, we just finished.
That's great, because I got one more hunt for y'all. Only this time, it's for a person. Fella named Dave went off, and we ain't heard from him since. Reckon he staked out a spot in an old shack nearby.
Old shack? Oh, got it. We'll take a look.
So in a world where names such as Noctis, Ignis, Gladiolus and Prompto exist, it's the same world that someone called Dave exists. Nice one, Square Enix. You've really kept up with that. But anyway, there's hold up in this shack over here. Dave is supposed to be gone because he's went missing, so we need to find him and find what's happened. Other things worth noting, as you can see on the minimap, there's a P that's represent parking space for when we get the car, and there's also the golden leaf for the resources that we'll go to in a second. But if we head over here, we can find some information that a bloodhorn with red tusks with extreme violence and a standing bounty can be found is in the area that Dave was probably after. But on doing that, we're hunted by a bunch of saber tusks.
We are now.
Spoke too soon.
So let's deal with our new threats. These guys are a bit more ferocious than the enemies we were just facing, so be careful. You might get hit a few times if you're not prepared as you're learning through the game. Remember, holding square will allow you to phase through attacks, but only if you're not attacking. If you get jumped on like that, you need to mash the hell out of the attack button to get out of it. Unless it's the PlayStation, it's circle. If you're playing off the Xbox One, it's the B button. Like, you can work it out yourself if you're following along. These guys thankfully dropped some saber tusk claws, which are quite handy resources to have early game. But we managed to outright dodge that attack through the warp strike. Didn't even mean to, but I'll take it. As you can see, our health bar is lowering, but there's a grey bar underneath it. That is how much you will restore back post-battle.
Hey, what about the shack over there?
Oh, there's another shack that is being highlighted to us. Anyway, that's what you will restore post-battle. If you're hit by heavy attacks, you'll see the grey bar will take a chunk out of it as well, and that means your maximum health it can restore to will be temporarily reduced. And there you just notice one of the problems with this game, the control scheme. the interact with the environment button is the same button as jump. And many times in this adventure, you'll see me go to interact with something and just jump on the spot. It's very annoying, but it is like that. If you're playing off the PC version that was recently released, you can set it to a different key on your keyboard if you wish. And I kind of recommend it because it will save an annoyance. And here we'll get stopped because there is a strategy system. Sometimes in fights, and it's near random, one of your teammates will stop you to bring up an idea of a strategy. In this case, is using the vantage point of heading towards the windmill, since you can point warp to it by holding down triangle to go to it.
Skewers prey with its tusks.
This works in the favour that you can lock onto an enemy and still hold down triangle to point warp to an area if you need to. So use it to your advantage to get to a higher point, get a strike on, and then cause carnage as we miss our parry barely. So there are several enemies in this area, and they seem quite focused around this shack, and the door's locked, so I wonder if Dave's holding out in it. As you can see, that enemy dropped fire energy. We'll get more into energy later on, but it's how you get magic in this game. It's a lot more simplified than other Final Fantasies, but it still does have a lot to it, and is worth showing off, and is worth getting some experimentation with if you're new to it. Late game you won't be using it so much, but early game I'll at least show it off as much as I can.
Knew you weren't completely useless.
Oh gee, thanks Gladiolus. As we've got a fair amount of experience on that, and a fossil shell. And in here he is, there's our good man Dave. And we get quite a number of experience points for it, putting us to a nice 395.
Didn't mean to cause y'all any trouble.
Oh, so...
Stuck here on account of a sprained ankle.
Oh no, Dave. Well, it's almost like it's a tutorial quest, so we needed someone to be the dummy for our test. But we saved David here, as it named him for us. I didn't get to read his last name, and I wasn't going to attempt to pronounce it either.
What do you say?
And Dave says, hey, do you want to go one more with this? And take on the hunt that we saw in the last shack? We're going to offer to do it for free because it gives us some more experience points and I believe a bit of AP, but I'm not entirely sure. If you offer to do it for cash, you miss out on the extra experience, but you will get some more money out of it. And we also get given a magic flask. Also, I was mentioning earlier about magic. You start with one, but as the game goes on, you can find more to hold different spells. You would get given 30 experience points there, quite handy. If you go down to Elemency, down here, here's what I mean. That we started with one that default has fire on it, but just normal fire. But you can get others. Unfortunately we don't have much energy, but we'll get more then. But essentially you stack on energy, and then you can put on an item to create different effects. Like there's stop casts, there's different alternates, there's quad casts, things like that you can get later on. There's even Xperia casts you can find later on that gives you, so you get experience points for doing it. Overall making it very handy to experiment with if you have the time and you get the resources. It's also why it's worth picking up loot to help get more out of the magic. Late game you can get some very devastating spells out of it if you put the time into it. I don't believe there's anything in here, but oh, Iggy's going to stop us to bring up a very valid point. If we're going to set out towards this heavy quest, we should probably rest before we do that, even if it's only midday. So yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go to a campsite and rest up for tonight.
Let's find a spot to make camp.
The havens that were highlighted by the tipster is where you can go to make camp. There are 3 in the lead area for us immediate go to, and the closest one has been lit up on our map.
They've definitely seen a lot more action than we have.
Is it cool that we rock Crown's Guard outfits?
And Promptos here is bringing up a point that we're all dressed and very obviously Crown's Guard. We're very obvious people of the Insomnian Kingdom.
So wear it with pride.
Everyone else wears very much more casual attires. So it's the fear of, do we maybe stand out? And we'll get more into that as we go on, but we do. But as we head over here, here's camp. As you can see by the sigils listed on the rocks around us, this is a safe haven where monsters of the night physically cannot reach us. So we will camp here for the night.
Let's call it a day.
We'll get a free AP point for doing as Ignis said. And we'll be introduced to the idea of camping. So our report card is pretty good, minus our finesse, but we'll make what we can of it. A full day did not elapse, but we made the most of it nonetheless. We'll only get this cutscene the first time you camp. Every other time it skips this, but it's showing that they do actually have camping gear and set up around them, even though no idea where they actually store it, but whatever. They have it here anyway. Like, see, you never see them carry big bags or anything like that. Like, I always assumed it was in the regalia, their car, but the cars broke down, and I doubt they travelled all the way back to Hammerhead off screen, got it out of the car, then came back. But whatever. Now we get introduced to the other thing, but this will elaborate more as we get more ingredients, but there are several recipes that Ignis knows, and if you have the ingredients for them, you can make them to get you separate bonuses for the following day. If you pre-ordered the game, you get a free one in the form of the pizza, but you always have a free one in the form of toast. But, let's have a look. What one do I want? The pizza I won't go with, because if you haven't pre-ordered the game, you're kind of out of luck with it, so I don't want to use it as a bit of an unfair advantage. So I'll go with the attack boost if we're going to go for our hunts soon afterwards. There's a lot of loading in this game, you'll notice. I'll edit out any bad load screens, but there is a lot of loading in this game, which is another problem with it, unfortunately. Other games would opt for the idea of making you go through a huge load screen to start it up and then nothing past that, but this game opts for a lot of lengthy load screens in general, unfortunately. And at the end of the day, when you go to camp, is when it will tally up your experience. It won't do it whilst you're fighting normally, which is handy because you can build up loads and then later on get experience bonuses to make the most of it and get double or triple the experience you got. At the end of the day, you also get to look through photos that Prompto has taken throughout it. As we go, I'll be making a habit of saving many because of various events I won't spoil, but they're good to have and look back upon as we go through the course of the adventure. I'll try and get a healthier balance, like maybe if you get a couple funny ones, I'll save them, like that with Noctis doing whatever the hell that is. But I'll try and get some nice ones that are serious ones, a few in combat, maybe a few goofy ones as we go. Any that catch my attention, really. Like this one's a nice one for combat, so I'll save this. Also worth noting, so I forgot to mention it earlier, I equipped the Muramasa on the Gladio. Even though I said I wouldn't use the pizza for its pre-order, the Muramasa was a pre-order bonus, but you can actually buy it for like 30 pence, I believe, in the UK. But it's there, so I'll be equipping it on Gladio to give him a nice starting weapon. But on that note, we've been going for 27 minutes, so I think that's a nice point to call it a wrap for today. So, next time on Final Fantasy XV, we'll head out and locate our target that Dave has set up for us, while Cindy continues to repair our regalia. But until then, you guys take care now, and once again, welcome to Final Fantasy XV.